Welcome to the Red Letters Podcast. In this podcast, we discuss topics that can be life transforming while still delivering a message of hope. This is part 1 in parenting adult children.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of Red Letters Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about some of the challenges we have on raising adult children, whether you consider it raising them or you're not raising them, or whether they're too old to be telling them what to do and what to do with their life. One of the reasons why we're bringing up this conversation is that, one, we have adult children. And the second part is there's a comment or a statement that helped kind of revolutionize how I see parenting. And what it was talking about, we were in a class, and Dr. Honeycutt, class that we take, and he explained how from when we have a child until we turn around until they're, let's just say, roughly 18. During that time, we turn around and use the authority of our parenthood as we raise them and as we help them grow into who they need to be. But there's a transition period, like towards it. I don't know if it's more in the teenage years, where we have to kind of be able to put aside the authoritative side of parenting and pick up the influential side, where we could turn around and pose questions to them and decisions and give them the options and be able to influence them in a way that they choose to make the right choices because they see it for themselves, not because you're telling them or pointing the finger, telling them what to do. So just something to start off our conversations. Is there any struggles that you guys have encountered, or any of us?
I'm good.
Okay, good for you, Jill.
I'm excited what you guys are going to say, though. I'm curious.
I do believe there's a lot of, I don't know if you called it challenges, or when it comes to raising children, adults, because I think that as a parent, single parents too, sometimes we forget that fine line between, are we raising, I like to say cultivating the existence of our child, but are we cultivating an adult or are we raising a child? Because I think that many of us, okay, I'm going to speak for myself. I got stuck in, this is my child and I want to do things this way. So I didn't allow him the time to be able to experience life the way he was supposed to be experiencing through those years of being a young teenager and a young adult, because I thought I knew better. So I'm supposed to be doing this for him. And then when he tripped and fell, instead of going and helping him get up, I was expecting something from him that was unrealistic because I hadn't given him that opportunity to figure things out on his own, because I was always trying to fix things for him. So as parents, and I talk to the Hispanic Mexican women, we have such a tendency to want to protect our child. We don't want anything to happen to, whether it's a female child or a male child, a female or a male, we want to do everything for them. And then when they're 20 something and they don't know what to do for themselves, we become angry because they should know better. So I think we have to take, for myself, I have to take ownership. If my child is struggling, it's because I was raising a baby and I wasn't raising an adult. I wasn't trying to cultivate an existence for an adult.
That's so good.
Yeah, I think raising kids, I think that one of the things that helps lead them and guide them to be more mature is always explaining the why. Because I know when we have that authoritative hat, a lot of times we just want to tell them what to do and they just need to do it because we said so, but not so much on why it's important for them to do that. I didn't really come to realize that a whole lot until I had a grandson, because now I use that strategy, if you will. And that to me seems like it pays better dividends, because now like my grandson, I've never had to spank him. Not that I, needed to or have the ability to, but I could actually talk to him and he could feel just as bad as if I spanked him when I turn around and tell him how much he hurt me.
It's a lot about allowing them to make their own mistakes.
Yeah.
It's making room for it, because as a child, and I'm talking about young adults, when a young adult is growing and they want to sneak out of the house, for example. And the first thing we want to do as parents is we want to condemn them. How dare you if they get caught? Instead of allowing, I know I did this for my sons, and right now Nick is 17 and he's not supposed to be driving, but he knows how to drive. So he'll say, Mom, can I use the car just to go do haircuts down the street? And I'll look at him and I'm like, but Nick, what could happen? And I start naming all the possible bad things that could happen, including him getting the car taken away. And he's like, Mom, everything's going to be okay. And I'm like, okay, then walk. And he's like, okay. And then I say, wait, what if somebody kidnaps him? And all these other things come. I'm like, Mary, you have to allow him to go out there and experience life and figure out how he's going to defend himself. Not always trying to follow him with the flashlight over here in the back where he can't see.
The helicopter parent.
Yes. So it's allowing for him to figure out how he's going to get into whatever he gets into. Mm-hmm. So
I would add to that, because I know a lot of times we say, let's let our kids make mistakes. Mm-hmm. But I'll follow that up with, because I wrote that down right when you were saying that too, but let them feel the consequence as well. Exactly. Because if you let them make a mistake, but you shelter them from the consequences, oh my goodness, yeah. You're messing the whole thing up. Yes. You're not really letting them make a mistake, because a mistake has to come with the consequence. Right. And we have to be there to help them and pick them up. But if we're trying to avoid and or cushion all of the consequences, then they're really not going to learn what the lesson's supposed to teach them.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. And I did a parenting class, and one of the things that was said was, if a child is not safe, so like I said earlier with the keys to the car, if I know that he can get in trouble, why give him the keys to the car? And see, if you think about it, we start out when they're young. If you ever see a child in a playground, a play structure, and he's trying to get up to something and he can't on his own, but what do a lot of parents do? Oh, I love him so much. So they go and they pick him up and they put him on the highest thing. You've just set your child up to possibly hurt themselves, because if they couldn't get up on their own, you shouldn't put them there, because now they can't get down, and you set them up to possibly fail.
That was deep.
So if instead you stand back and you allow for mistakes, you see how they start climbing up and they fall, they shake it off and they go back again, but they'll only go as far as they know how far they can go. So then it's like, but as the parent, you sit back and you allow for that. But the moment you go and you put them up there, now you can't leave them alone, because you know they're going to fall. But you did it. You're the one that set them up. So when you hand your child that key, and you know he's only 15 and he doesn't have a driver's license or whatever, you've set that up. And you can't turn around and be angry at him because you allowed it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say would be some tools to help our children become responsible young adults?
I say it's giving them a lot of responsibility when they're younger. Mm-hmm. That means 15, 16, 13 years old. At 12 years old, most kids, 10 years old, most kids know how to do laundry. And if not, stand them over there beside you. This is how whites go here. You start teaching at a young age. If a child at 3 years old knows that this is dirty, you put this over there, this is clean, you put it over there. How to tidy up, you threw out your toys, you got to put your toys back up. Mm-hmm. You eat at the table, but then you go and you put your plate up at the sink. Those are the little things that we're teaching the children as they're growing up. In teenage years, you're responsible to be home at a certain time, after a game. Those are the responsibilities we have to start giving children. Hey, I'm going to need you to, when we go to the store, you're going to have to pick this. I'm going to get this. We're giving them age-appropriate responsibilities and allowing for them to make some choices. So when they are becoming adults, 18, 19, 20, we're not expecting something unrealistic from them. What do you mean you don't know how to pay this bill? Well, Mom, I don't even know where I'm supposed to call. But if you were giving them that information, sitting them down with you when you're budgeting out for the month of, okay, this gets paid here, this gets paid there. You're teaching them this and preparing them. So when they are adults, they know how to do it for themselves and not making mistakes. And then we're mad at them because, oh, you're 21 and you don't know how to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's good. That's so I like how you said age appropriate.
Yeah.
I think we need to, as parents and or Theos and Theas, uncles and aunts, whatever, to keep our eye out to see how we can better equip those that are children becoming adults to be able to give them things that they could chew on and that will help develop them. One of the things that I know when we did what we did with our kids when they were younger was we have the chore list, but I had it color coded. I had I even
remember
have
that.
it to this day because I've shared it with some parents when that topic comes
You
up.
still have it?
Yeah, I still have it. Yeah, I still have it, but I would turn around and everyone knew what needed to be done, but I kind of like itemized everything as far as brushing your teeth, everything to try to make sure that they understood what needed to be done. And I think that was one tool that helped. But I'm going to actually shift to you, Gio. What tools do you think were either given to you or that helped you, or even maybe something that wasn't so great that you would have adjusted?
I think the responsibility part of it, I think that, and even like manners. Like for me, I think like I'm considered a gentleman because of what you guys taught me how to, act in social gatherings, hug, say hi, make sure you acknowledge everybody. Like little things like that. I didn't realize that a lot of families don't implement in their kids. They don't care if their kid just, runs inside the guest home and just, goes to the toy room or whatever. Yeah, it goes crazy. Because I know I would be, I remember like jumping outside of a one-story window, and it was an open window one time, and I remember getting in trouble because my dad was like, "That's not how you act in someone's home. You respect everything." I think the manners, like how to act in social gatherings, the responsibility, and I remember you setting us up with like the bank account, like early on, like when we got our allowances. I think we started at like at $50 on the minimum. And so we'd put money away. I don't remember putting a lot of money because I would keep it, but it was available to me. I think someone probably was better than me with my money. But little things like that, I think helped me a lot more than I thought it would when I was younger.
One of the other things I know that I learned it from my uncle is that like when you're going to do like a big purchase, to not be moved by emotions and to turn around, like, because he had taught me like when you're going to go even buy a car, because this is part of adulting, is what do you call it? Be willing to walk away. Yeah. And it was a little hard for me in the beginning because I just felt like I don't know how to negotiate. I don't know how to do all this stuff. But then after I saw the fruit of being able to know how to do that, man, it helped me so much. So I tried my best to roll that over to my kids. And so like when they would find when they were looking for a car, like Gio, I don't know if you want to share that experience because you lived it.
Yeah, because my dad had taught me that like don't bring any cash to when you're gonna go look at a car because you're impulsive. Because if you see, you're like, oh, it looks all nice. And so we drove up to Rancho Bernardo for my first car, which was like a Mustang, and we went and I was like, oh, dude, like, I think I might have asked my dad, like, oh, did you pull the money out or whatever? He's like, no, we're not pulling any money out yet. And so we drove up to Rancho Bernardo, which is like a 30-minute drive, went, saw the car, and then we were like, okay, well, we'll let you know. Then we came back in the car. I was like, I really like this car, Dad. And so I think the same day we drove down, picked up some money, and then went back right up to do it. And I actually implemented it when we got our latest car, me and Jess. We went up to Murrieta, and Jess was like, we bring the cash? I was like, no, my dad taught me that we don't bring the cash because we're impulsive. And so that's something I actually use still because I believe that works because I'm very impulsive. I don't trust myself.
It's so pretty. I want it now.
Yeah, exactly.
And then even like when you got that car, remember how I know that some people are like, ready to hustle and like, hey, let me lowball you and this and that. And then how you saw that they had marked the car down, and then you had turned around and said that, hey, you had so much to work with. And I said, some people like to hustle people, but it doesn't even hurt to ask politely once if they would consider a lower price. And that worked out for you as well, right?
I think you save a couple hundred, a few $100, I think.
I thought it was like 1,000.
Yeah, it was a couple thousand.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember that one. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think it was like 1,000 or 1,500.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I know you're not the type that likes to like try to strong arm anybody or whatever, even though you know jujitsu. But I remember you said that you had mentioned to me that you would have liked to get it a little bit cheaper. And I said, well, it doesn't hurt to ask one time politely, hey, would you consider, because my budget's this and that. And they ended up, I remember you were excited and calling, hey, Dad, they liked us, so they went ahead and gave us it for the price.
Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
okay. I thought the Mustang.
No,
But
no,
yeah,
no.
that one. Yeah,
That one, yeah.
Okay, yeah, we did get like almost 1,000 off.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, so it doesn't hurt to ask. But and the other thing I thought was kind of that helped us too, and it was kind of a cool thing that took place, and it was nice to see how the whole pendulum swung, because when my kids got older, we started charging them rent. It wasn't a bunch of money, but what we did is instead of collecting it and using the money, we would just put in a savings for them. So we would just put it aside and just let it stack up. And then I remember at one point, and I believe it was Gio, he turned around and him and Ruth, but I believe it was Gio's idea, so I'm giving you the credit. And Ruth's not here. If you're listening, Ruth, sorry. Hopefully I got it right. But Gio turned around one day and said, we want to turn around and not be paying our quote unquote rent and put the money aside. We actually want to participate in the contribution of the family. And then it shifted, and I was like, that was a beautiful day in my heart, not so much because of the money, but because they saw the importance of being a contributing member of the family. And that's where I saw that child become more of an adult in the way that they think. And I was just like amazed that took place.
That's great. And go ahead.
Oh no, yeah, I was just agreeing.
I was gonna, I'm glad you brought that up, Tony, because that's something you're showing your children, you're modeling to your child. And for me, like I said in the beginning, I sheltered my first boys. It was so weird. Like, if you think I was crazy, I was. It was like I'm sheltering, but I'm very strict, like very mean in a way. And there was a lot of things I didn't show them. With my 17-year-old and my youngest, they see like, okay, we got to sit down. This is how much we're going. This is how much we're doing. And he himself said, I'm not trying to be mean, Mom, but I don't need you to buy me my shoes. Because he's been working, he started cutting hair and he really enjoys it. He's like, I make my own money. Allow me to do this for myself. I'm like, well, and I took it hard. I was like, I'm your mom. Like, this is my responsibility. But in his dad's like, let him. We don't have to. We don't have to
the
spend
man.
it. That's the man. But
Good job, Marcos.
But I always thought, like, even now, like when I sit back, we don't buy any of his school clothes. We don't get him his shoes. We don't pay for his haircuts, obviously. But the most we've done in the past few years was pay for his braces. And that's because my insurance paid for most of it. But I see that's something that was modeled to him and it was allowed. So that's something that we as the parents allowed him. You can see how much we pay out. You can see how much is coming into the home, how much is being paid out. And you can also see how much we spend on you guys whenever you guys start school, whatever. And him and his brother, because we gave them this information. So earlier when you said responsibility, children need discipline. Children need discipline. That doesn't mean hitting a child. That means disciplining their mind, disciplining how they think of life. But if you start in their teenage years, this is something that goes on into their adulthood. But we want to shelter or we want to not show them or we want to do this. And then we expect something from them when they become adults that we haven't showed them yet.
I think discipline for sure. Like growing up, I'm grateful now. Of course, in the moment, it was like it was not fun.
Yeah.
But I'm actually thankful because I see kids and like young adults that weren't disciplined, and I'm like, man, I could have turned out a lot worse. So I think discipline, like, it doesn't have to be like how you said, like, beating your kid, or it could like how you do with Atlas, like you verbally express like how much it hurt you. I feel like that can go just as far as maybe a spanking or something like that.
Exactly. And discipline is having your children have responsibility. Okay, you have to take out the trash. You didn't take out the trash, so your punishment is no TV, or you're not going to go play outside for 2 afternoons, whatever. That's a form of discipline, because a lot of people have asked, what do you mean by discipline? I don't know what that means. It's like actually sitting down with your child and having them write I want you to write me something. But what is that? Well, I'm teaching you how to write because if you're a good writer, you're a good communicator. But that's disciplining your child. It's not punishment. It's not like that. But a lot of us, because we don't understand and we choose not to get informed, we think, oh no, I would never discipline my child. That's not what I'm referring to when I'm saying discipline and give your child responsibility, because in the long run, it's going to help them when they become adults.
I actually want to throw in something too for the young adults that feel like maybe they have parents, but they don't feel like they received some of that. I think a lot of times you could learn a lot by observation, and you could even pose questions if you don't feel like it's freely being given to you the information that you might need. Meaning, let's just say, you're adulting now, and you don't know how to balance a checkbook because that's something that never got taught to you. Well, instead of kind of feeling like you're a victim, that, man, my mom and dad never showed me that, I guess I got to go to YouTube or whatever. It doesn't hurt for you to open that conversation with your parents and say, hey, how do you balance a checkbook? Don't be afraid to pull that out of your parent. And if they're a halfway decent parent, they're going to want to show you how to do that, because they want you to win at the end of the day. They just maybe don't know how to communicate and or talk about that, or think that that's important, because probably nobody showed them how to do that. So I think you asking your parents or somebody, that's older, like we mentioned earlier, uncle, aunt, whatever, whoever it is that is like a parent figure for you, reach out and pull that out of them. I bet you it would deepen the value of that relationship as well, because you're trusting them to be vulnerable enough to say, hey, can you show me something I don't know?
Oh, that is so good. Yeah. And as parents also, Tony, we should be, get out of our shell and actually talk to our young adults. Mijo, look, we never talked about this. Or I never thought to show you this because I already knew it. I just figured talk to them. Is there anything that I can help you with? My son, Chris, came into the house. They love when I make, chile verde con chicharrón. They love when I make this. And he came in and he was standing far, but watching me. And he goes, Mom, I've always wanted to ask you this. And I'm like, what? I'm like, oh, what did I do? He said, what are the ingredients and at what time do you do what? And I said, oh, well, get over here. I can teach you. And he said, really? You don't mind? And I'm like, no. He said, you're always in a hurry, especially when you're cooking. He said, I thought it was a secret of what you put in there. You don't want anybody to know. I was like, I'm just always in a hurry. I was like, no, I don't mind. So I invited him over there. I'm like, this is what I do. And I step by step. He's like, Mom, I never knew it could be that simple. And I'm like, yeah, but simple things like cooking, everybody thinks that their mom has the best cooking. I don't think it's the best. I just think that he really enjoys it. But it's we need to open that up for our children, and we need to be, you're going to hear me talk a lot about this on Wednesday, being present for your child. Being physically in the house doesn't mean that you're actually present with your child. So a lot of times it's okay, when he told me this, I was like, oh, I felt so bad, because I was always in the kitchen, but because I'm always in a hurry and I'm always moving stuff and doing this and get out of my way type of person, because I need to get the stuff done. I never thought that he was curious, how is she doing this? So just because I'm physically there doesn't mean that I'm actually present in his life. So, I mean, he's older now, but I'm like, come in the kitchen, you can watch, let's do this together. Yeah. Why not invite your child? If you are gonna go pay bills, hey, mijo, come with me, or mija, let's go do this, and this is how you do this. When you take them grocery shopping, I took one of our youth grocery shopping. He's like, I don't even know where to start. I don't know. And I get it. He didn't have parents growing up, and he's moved around. But to me, it's so natural. You get salt and pepper. You're going to need that for anything. You make eggs or steak, you're still going to need salt and pepper. But he didn't know this. And it's it makes you sit back and appreciate who you were and the little things, because kids will always say, you didn't do all of this, but how you were able to be present for your own child. But it's those little things that because it comes so natural to us as a parent, we fail to teach our child that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one thing that was said to me, actually to me and my wife, maybe a couple months ago, and it was my mouth hit the ground. And what it was is, I don't even know if my kids would have said that, just because it was an awkward statement. We have our new daughter-in-law, Kinley. They just got married last Sunday, and we had a conversation with them before they got married, talking about the wedding. And she turned around and she has this conversation with me and my wife, and we're talking, and she goes, oh no, I think I brought it up saying, hey, I just want to, apologize if for some reason you don't feel like I was as hands-on with the wedding and stuff like that, or things that you do. I just feel that you guys are adults and I try to give you guys your space. And then she ends up saying, she goes, to be honest with you, I actually wish you would. And I was like, what? And she goes, you and your wife, you almost play the opposite roles sometimes. And I go, what do you mean? And she goes, well, sometimes your wife, or Ida, her mother-in-law, sometimes she's a little more hands-on, where it would be nice for her to kind of step back a little bit. And since you're more the quiet one, you should get more hands-on. And I was like, whoa, and she said it like so respectfully, she said it with her heart, and she goes, I'm not trying to sound offensive, nothing like that. But she said that, and like my mouth hit the ground. I was like, wow, she called me out, but it was somebody who loves somebody is willing to even say something like that. I thought that was a cool thing for her to say. So now I have to be a little more intentional to try to like be a little bit more forward in my kids' lives. Not that I'm not there for them. It's just I've taken the role that let me step back more to give you the freedom that you need to start stretching out your wings so you could fly in this thing called life. So it was just amazing to hear something like that. So shout out to you, Kinley, and parents children, or adult children that are adulting now and stuff like that. Yeah. Don't hesitate to even have a conversation that might sound similar to that with your parents. If you need them to be a little bit more active in a loving, respectful way, have that conversation with them.
And parents, don't be quick to become offensive.
There you go. Yeah, because I could have taken it the wrong way, but I thought it was just so loving on how she presented it and what she said, and it just made me value her a little bit more because she went there.